On Wednesday, June 12th, 2024, CloudBees Jenkins LTS 2.452.2 was released. On today's show, we're going to be talking about all the changes in that release, which there were quite a few, but also not as many as a .1. Along with me, I have Mark Waite. Mark, how are you doing today?
Just great, Darin. Thanks for hosting.
I sort of tripped up and said CloudBees LTS. It's like, wow, okay, how did that happen?
No shame. There's a matching CloudBees LTS that's coming out. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Already did come out.
Oh, right.
So
You're
that's
right.
Fine. Again, we're doing this live, so sometimes words happen. Mark, we're at a .2. A .2. Can you believe it already? It feels like
yeah.
we're at a .1.
It's been a busy season, Darin. It has been a busy season.
So if people aren't familiar with the Jenkins LTS release process or even the standard process, let's talk about, what is a Jenkins LTS?
Sure. So Jenkins long-term support starts from a weekly release. We release every week. But then every 12 weeks, we select a baseline. That weekly base release then is allowed to sit for a little bit so that we then backport changes to it, and it becomes the .1 of the LTS. So 2.452.1 was our first LTS of the 2.452 baseline. 4 weeks later, we release a .2. 4 weeks after that, we release a .3, and the game starts over again. 4 weeks later, we've chosen a new baseline and release a new .1.
And that's the basics. And of course, there's a weekly that comes out
Every week.
It just makes sense, right? Just every week.
Well, and users are welcome to choose and use weekly, and we intend to keep it production strength all the time. But you should upgrade weekly if you choose to run weekly. Running weekly and upgrading every year is a bad choice.
Running a single LTS and waiting a year is a bad choice.
Exactly. You should upgrade monthly with LTSs. Absolutely.
Okay. We could talk about that for the next hour. We're not going to do
Right.
that. Let's just go ahead and take a look at the release because, again, with it being a .2, it's not that large, thankfully. We don't want a .2 to be very large. If you haven't taken a look at the changelog, go to download. You'll see both weekly releases and stable. We're going to click on changelog here. And quickly if you've never looked at it before, there's a legend at the top. Bigger means bigger, I guess. Big yellow, is yellow this color we've always had?
It is. Yeah,
okay.
I think
wow.
so.
Red for bugs, and then we have bugs and enhancements. And so anyway, those are there. There's an upgrade guide. We'll take a look at that. Don't ever forget to look at the upgrade guide. Upgrade guide's big deal. So here we are, June 12th, 452.2. So far, 12 sunnies. That's good. And zeros across the board. But you'll notice there were 5, count them 5 releases or 5 fixes to this, if you want to call it a fix. Where do you want to start with this, Mark? Because we have a little bit of time.
Yeah, so I think, actually, I want to start with the second and third row to talk a little bit about why do we upgrade bundled plugins. So here it says the Script Security plugin and the Bouncy Castle API plugin have both been upgraded. The Jenkins plugin model allows users and encourages users to install the most recent version of the plugin. It's just a healthy behavior. So when we have a security vulnerability, we publish a new release of the plugin. But some of those plugins, also for historical reasons, had been bundled inside Jenkins core. When a plugin is bundled, we can't update it. You're running LTS 2.452.1. If we release a new plugin version, your 2.452.1 can't change its own content. So you download the new plugin, it uses it, but the bundled version for brand new installations is still the older version. By updating the bundled plugin, we avoid complaints from security scanners, and we avoid any risk that a user who is starting brand new gets a plugin that has a known vulnerability in it.
So 2 bundled plugins, even though the second one just doesn't say bundled explicitly, but it's bundled in. what is a bundled plugin? Why? I thought all plugins just were downloaded from the internet all the time.
And that's actually a really good way to consider it. They are almost always downloaded from the internet. However, some plugins represent functionality that was at one point in Jenkins Core and has been extracted from Jenkins Core into a plugin. In order to retain compatibility, we bundle the plugin inside Jenkins Core so that it's always available, providing that API entry point to the consumer. So if we extract functionality from Jenkins Core into a plugin, that plugin then needs to be bundled to assure that the API remains consistent.
Okay. So those are the two. By the way, Mitya, good to see you. Thanks for joining us here live as always. Agile Guru, good to see you as well. So we talked about the numbers 2 and 3. Do you want to talk about the big red one? Because that felt like a interesting problem.
Yeah, so I like that one because what it's done, if you open up the issue, you can see the description there. What it's done is simplified things for users who are using the EC2 plugin and need to add a new cloud. And in this case, what it had was a type variable, a variable name, or a keyword in the DSL that needed to change from the word type to a more descriptive word, cloud descriptor name. And it's a fascinating failure mode of something that's expressed in the Jenkins dynamic language, in the Groovy language that Jenkins is using for this particular thing.
So type is a reserved word?
It's that kind of thing, right? Saying it's a reserved word, when we use the word reserved word, I have to think about what that might mean. But yes, it's that kind of problem.
It's in that family of issues.
Right. And you see it there. Null pointer exception is, okay, we don't like null pointer exceptions. That blocks users from getting their work done.
Yep. So anyway, that's now been fixed specifically in the version
2.452.2. Right.
So this was a core problem that affected the EC2 plugin.
Correct. Exactly.
Okay. Got it. And then a couple of just UI things here at the bottom.
Right, and the UI things are fun ones, right? That CSS classes, that one hints that CSS class names, so cascading style sheet class names in HTML, have to be managed rather carefully. And in this case, we were having a namespace collision with the Bootstrap API. And so the UI team has made a change and said, look, let's prefix these classes with Jenkins dash so that we don't have a namespace collision with Bootstrap.
That just makes sense.
Well, it does, but you dream of not having a single namespace, right?
Yeah. Anyway. And then a problem with Safari. We have people using Jenkins with Safari.
Absolutely, and we want to support them. And this one was very impressive because it only appears when you zoom the Jenkins to a non-default zoom value. So you're at 100% with Safari, you won't see this. But if you switch it to 150%, then the layout is a little odd. So nice fix, very, very, and an impressive find by the user who found it and fixed it.
And that's it.
That's really
all
it.
5.
Yep.
So what's the over-under for how many will happen in .3? Is it going to be less than 5?
Yeah, I'm the wrong guy to predict over and under.
I don't know either. So that's it from a changelog perspective, but Mark has a few things that he wants to talk about specifically that's going to be upcoming that we can talk about, right? So what are the big ones?
You're okay if we don't go to the upgrade guide?
Oh, no, I'm not. We should go to the upgrade guide.
Let's look at the upgrade guide.
Just to be sure.
Guide. Formalism, we look at the upgrade guide just to see what it says.
Okay. So we take a look at the upgrade guide. We'll go to .2 and no notable changes.
Right.
Yay. We're good.
So that was it. Now we can switch gears and let's talk about a little bit about what's coming. So Darin, if you could open up the they're on the Jenkins.io site actually. Okay. Let's go to the blog and let's look at the most recent blog post because that is the start of it. Second to most recent. Jenkins requires Java 17, right? So what we've got coming is Jenkins running with Java 17 or Java 21. we will drop support for Java 11 Tuesday of next week. So yes, that's right, June 18th. If you're watching the recording of this, June 18th, 2024, Jenkins Weekly will no longer support Java 11. We've been warning users, and if you scroll up just a little, Darin, we can see that graph, and you can see that, or the other direction. This JVMs by date graph shows very nicely what's happening, and we really like what's happening. Users are heeding our request. That purple line, growing Java 17, is doing a very nice job of climbing towards getting much more of the Jenkins community on Java 17. And the nice sharp decline of Java 11 means that they're paying attention to our warnings that Java 11 will no longer be supported come September of 2024.
So at the bottom of this, is there a post? Okay, so this is what will happen, correct?
If you choose to this one it's showing you here is if you try to run an agent. But if you try to run the controller, it will tell you, yes.
On start, right.
Exactly. It gives you a nice, clean, a very straightforward message. You've got to use Java 17.
Right. And Java 17 is how old now?
Oh, yeah. What is it? 2 years, I think? A year and a half? Good question. I don't remember, but it's plenty mature. We're on 17. We're already on. I know how to estimate it.
Okay.
We're on 17.0.11. And that means we are 11 quarters since the release of Java 17, which means we are almost 3 years. We are 2 years and 9 months since the first release of Java 17. So it's a nice, stable platform. Get to Java 17. You could also choose to go to Java 21. Either is fine. They are both fully supported. And if you say, I don't want to stop at 17, you can go straight to 21. Java 21 works great as well.
The key thing that you need to remember, if you still need an older version of Java for your app, this is a different JVM. You can use separate. In fact, you should always use separate JVMs.
Right,
it's a different conversation.
Well, and
but
that conversation is so important that Basil actually included in this blog post. Scroll down a little bit, because he wanted to be sure that people. Maybe I've taken you the wrong way. Go back up. It is, where was it? He was putting in text. I remember he and I had this conversation exactly. He said, look, I want people to know. Scroll down a little bit further, Darin.
Okay, well, I think.
Oh, no, there it is. The global tool configuration page. Yes.
Yeah.
So he wanted to be sure that users understand the JVM that is running Jenkins can be very different than the JVM you use to compile your code or to test your code.
Every platform will allow you to have multiple JVMs installed on the system.
Exactly.
Now, whether you put which JVM you put on the global path is a different conversation.
Right.
If any.
Exactly.
Right. My preference is if I have multiple JVMs on a system, whether it's a controller, whether it's an agent, whether it's just a plain old box. If I know I'm going to have multiples on there, I don't have any Javas on the global path, just so I don't burn myself.
And I think that's a good insight. I've used the other technique, and I have been burned. So your observation is a very good one. That when you choose to allow applications running on the agent to take the default Java, you may in fact be surprised when that default Java is not the version you really wanted. Right. Explicitly declaring your Java version is a lot better.
A little more work, but you know what you have.
Right.
And that's the key part. From Meech's question, any news about the end of support for 17? Do we go back to the 2+2+2?
We do. We're making progress towards 2+2+2. So the 2+2+2 support plan was back where is it? Keep going. The easiest way to find it?
What is the easiest way?
Oh, you just found it. I was going to suggest look at all the blog posts authored by Basil, because this one also is authored by Basil.
Right. So if we were to take a look at the actual proposal,
right,
17, if I'm doing the math right, expires in October-ish of 25.
Right. So late 2025 based on this diagram. And 17's expiration date is a little more complicated because we're in the transition period to 2+2+2.
Right.
I've got to double check it to be sure what the Jenkins itself warns users about when the Java 17 end of life will happen. But we will stop support of Java 17, and the goal is roughly 2 years before Tamarin and others stop their support of Java 17.
Right. And why is that again?
Because we like not having to support more than 2 Java virtual machines at one time in the project. It's enough work for us to support 2 different major versions of Java. If we have to carry 3, it's more than we can do.
Right. So the ballpark is, subject to change, is end of third, early fourth quarter. Well, no, sometime in the fourth quarter probably of 2025.
Right.
Meaning sometime between October and December, somewhere in there.
That's what the diagram shows us. And yeah, I've got to go back and look at all the details. But we see Java 17 end of life coming, right? Mm-hmm. It's on the horizon, but it's a good year away-ish.
Yeah. Boy, it doesn't seem possible. Only a year away from...
Well, okay, the cool thing there is October of 2025 is when Java 25 releases. So, or September of 2025 is the release, and we think we'll probably support it by October.
Right. Okay. What else do we need to talk about, Mark?
That was it. Just wanted to tell people, get off of Java 11, choose either Java 17 or Java 21, and Weekly will make that transition Tuesday. Mm-hmm. LTS will make that transition 30th October 2024. So we're still quite a ways away from the LTS transition, but now is the time to make your transition so that you're ready for when LTS makes its transition.
So if you didn't have any plans for the summer,
right, you've got the whole summer to do this. Exactly.
Thing to keep in mind, your Java needs to be upgraded on your controller.
Right, and on every agent.
Agents.
Absolutely.
And the way Mark said it's better than the way I said it, every agent.
Right. And if you're a cloud provider, if you're using cloud ephemeral agents, you've got to think about, okay, how do I define those ephemeral agents? How do I make sure that they're upgraded? Absolutely. My 50 agents that I run, or 47 agents I'm currently running, are all getting regular care and feeding to be sure their Java version is current.
Yep. So in 4 weeks, we'll be back with the .3. That is going to be July 11th. It comes out on July 10th. So fortunately, we didn't have it fall on July 4th week. Yay. But we would have been here anyway, right, Mark?
Oh,
because
sure.
July 4th would have been on Thursday, the time we're doing the show. That would have been perfect, right? I think your wife and my wife would have had different conversations with us.
Exactly. I will be camping that week in the back of my vehicle in the Rocky Mountains. So I do not intend to do any broadcasts that week. That week,
okay. But July 11th, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, and whatever time, let's see, can I do the math? 10:30 p.m. CET. Because it's 6, I can remember 6. So anyway, thanks for everybody joining us today live if you're watching the replay. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're not following the changelogs, you should follow the changelogs on the Jenkins project. Because if you are the administrator of a Jenkins controller and agents within your organization, you want to know what's coming, especially in these next few months. So just keep up to date. Mark, thanks. To everybody else, thank you. And we will see you again in 4 weeks.